Welcome back to my gallery. It's been a while since I've wondered aloud in that video series, so I thought time to get back into the swing of things. And actually I have something on my mind, and it's connected with why I'm sitting in precisely this spot in the gallery. Over my right shoulder, the left hand of your screen, is a sculpture I've recently finished. It's a reinterpretation of Edvard Munch's iconic 1893 painting, The Scream. A painting that sort of expresses all sorts of existential angst. And in my case, I don't know why I did it. The wood carving itself was the second sculpture I ever made in Peru in 1994. Wow, that's a long time ago. But anyway, that was my second venture into the world of wood carving, and it's been languishing here. I've recently started dabbling with mixed media pieces, so this one has wood, wire, and wool. What it all means, I don't know, but it seems to be a very good illustration of what I wanted to talk about today, which is an idea that surfaced in one of those email letters that I receive. And on this occasion, the author put forward a very interesting idea I think is well worth sharing. In our current times, it's very easy to get a little bit depressed and ask ourselves whether we're slowly slipping into some sort of Orwellian dystopian nightmare. Big Brother. Well, Big Brother, the TV program in itself, is cause for concern. And the term Big Brother actually was one coined, I think, or certainly popularized by George Orwell in his novel 1984. And it was a novel all about sort of a world dominated by these three authoritarian regimes who control the way we think through pain and propaganda. Well, that rings true right now. And I imagine that strikes a chord with many of you out there, concerns that you have. Certainly with the soon-to-be encroaching on my life Brazilian elections. Now, obviously, the Brazilian presidential election doesn't encroach on my life in a sort of obvious, direct way. I don't have a vote. But it does in that it will be impossible to escape political discourse, which will be of a very much rabble-rousing, populist, whichever flavour you choose, type of shouting from the soapbox. Dreadful. Nothing I can do. This is where I've chosen to live, and the compensations more than outweigh the irritation every 2 years of either municipal or national elections. But the author that I was reading suggested that perhaps that isn't the sort of nightmare literary scenario that we should be focusing on. Because about 10 years before George Orwell wrote his Dystopian Nightmare, Aldous Huxley gave us a utopian nightmare vision. It may sound like a bit of a paradoxical idea, but in his novel Brave New World, he outlined a vision where society was not controlled by pain, but by pleasure. And the author of this email suggested that perhaps that's more akin to what we're living through right now, certainly in our Western world. In Orwell's book, and in the sort of horrific visions of 1930s and beyond fascism, there was that, I suppose nothing symbolized it more than book burning. But in this kind of world where our senses are dulled by pleasure, the question isn't how we're stopped from reading books, but how we simply lose all interest in the first place. And that rings very true. You know, and I say books, and you could replace it with any art form of your choosing. But in the times that we are living through, pleasure, entertainment has become simply far too easy. And our inclination for deeper dives is blunted. It's too easy to get onto a treadmill of non-stop entertainment. And actually, the political discourse that I'm talking about is another manifestation of that. The sort of get on your soapbox, YouTube political diatribes, on the surface are all about information, politics, sociology, philosophy, things like that. But they just suck you in with a clickbaity sort of hook, and they are about entertainment, shock value. They are like a horror film maybe rather than a romantic comedy, but that is all they are. They are not offering you deep, thought out, considering an issue from every angle type of discussions. And it struck me, as I share this piece of art, it struck me that what we really need to do is engage with longer forms of discussion, deeper, more nuanced dialogues, and actually not just watch, read, listen to those sorts of things, but participate. And by participate, I don't mean that we write a comment in the section below. However, I would love it if you did write a comment, a response to this video. Yeah, of course I would. But what I'm suggesting is that perhaps what we need to do is produce our own reasoned, thoughtful content, and eventually, dare I say it, our own art. Now, maybe the visual arts isn't your thing, but I mean art in a more general sense. Art, literature, painting, sculpture, culinary arts, theatre, filmmaking. You know, honestly, there is a myriad of ways that we can express ourselves creatively that goes beyond simply a blunt demonstration of idea and starts taking on deeper, more symbolic, artistic resonance. And I think we need to do that. I think as human beings, it is deep within us. Anthropologists have unearthed art that primitive cultures have produced that goes back 40, one could argue 70,000 years. So we have the means to do that too, and I think we need to. We need to engage with the world around us in an artistic sort of way. Not to say that is, that this has to be your career, or that you have to be an artist with a capital A. Perhaps your artistic endeavor is essentially a curation that is explained and shared. Well, that's an art too. But we live in times when more than ever before, I believe this is incredibly necessary. And it's necessary because we collectively as communities need to fight against not necessarily the authoritarian dystopia, but a sort of reinterpretation of an authoritarian utopia, where perhaps the authorities aren't governments or political leaders, they are commercial forces or social leaders or influencers. So that's it for today. This is actually the second time I've made this video. The first one was perhaps a little too dark, and I don't want to be dark. I think we live in a beautiful world. I certainly do, but I think we all do. We live in worlds where we are surrounded by wonderful things and wonderful ideas, and we need to give expression to those. We need to contribute to those, and I think we need to give a counterweight to the tawdry and the superficial, the angry and the depressing. We need to offer a better alternative. So that's it for this week. I trust you're well, your lives are filled with joy, and until the next time, ciao.